The voice of sharing, during ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, everyone. This is Grace, and welcome to 3 ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And you are now at ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia. So let's just keep ourselves updated what's been happening in Greece. And they had a voting where they will have a yes or no for referendum in the nation. And then the result is out, and all those no vote supporters have been celebrating in Athens. So with almost all those bailout counted, the result from this Greek referendum showed that decisively rejecting the terms of international bailout. So these figures published by the Interior Ministry showed 61, those whose bailout had been counted, voting no, against the yes, which was 39%. So their opponents warned that this could see the Greece eject from the Eurozone. That Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said that Greece had voted for Europe of solidarity and democracy. So as for tomorrow, Greece will go back to the negotiating table, and then the priority is to be considered in terms of financial stability of the country. At the same time, the debt, which Greece owned a huge amount, will be on the negotiating table, which is very complicated, and also hope that by this week it confirms the Greek views that it will restructure the debt, and it is very necessary. So those are some of the updates that came from the recent voting result in nation. However, some European officials had said that no would be seen as outright rejection of talks with the creditors. So Jeroen Dijsselbloem, who heads the Eurozone's group of financial ministers, he mentioned that referendum result was very regrettable for the future of Greece. And in fact, Germany's deputy Chancellor Sigmar Gabriel, he also mentioned that renewed negotiation with Greece were difficult to imagine. But the Greek Prime Minister and also his government were taking the country down a path of bitter abandonment and also hopelessness. The party by no will go well into the night, and also the government will be popping open a ozone. So Prime Minister has cancelled the Eurozone's bluff, and also it appears to have gone in his way. But then this triumphalism will not last for a long time, because there is still a sizable chunk of a Greek nation deeply unhappy with what happened. And also the government will have to unite a divided country. And on top of that, a deal with the Eurozone has to be struck really, really fast. And all these Greek banks are running critically low, and it will need another injection of emergency funds from European Central Bank. And already Greece has borrowed lots of money and funds from the European Central Bank already. And given the bad blood of the perhaps for the past 2 weeks, Greece's finance minister Yanis Varoufakis calling the Eurozone strategy terrorism, and it will be very hard to get around this negotiating table, and also with the banking crisis and the tax revenues plummeting, all this instability. How about the Greek economy here that has weakened again and again and again, making the deals even harder to reach? So this Eurozone's tough rhetoric will continue, but Greece's government will have its answers prepared, hopefully, fingers crossed. And a lot of people have been thinking that, oh, is this the end of the nation and restructuring the country? What will exactly happen to Greece? And in fact, this country had been locked in a negotiation with its creditors for months when this Greek government unexpectedly called a referendum on the terms they was being offered. And banks also have been shut, all these capital controls in place, perhaps since last week, and also after European Central Bank declined to give Greece more emergency funding. But then, look at the reality. All those Greek central bank will need to borrow money again, and that these withdrawals at cash machines have been limited to about 60 pounds per day, and Greece's latest bailout expired, which was just last week, and Greece missed about 1.6 billion pounds payment to the IMF. So more news updates will be coming on at 3N ASEAN. So stay tuned for the next session, which we'll be talking about and discuss on the politics aspect of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to 3N ASEAN. You're with Grace at ASEAN Dailies, where we focus and discuss matters from Southeast Asia. But then let's come back to Malaysia this time, because this talk and these discussions perhaps been going on for some time, and we're talking about our Prime Minister Najib. He's to file suit against the Wall Street Journal since Tuesday. So Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak is expected to file this suit against the Wall Street Journal over its report implicating him and an alleged about 2.6 billion ringgit money trail. And he was scheduled to have this press conference at Masjid Bandar, reaching in summary about in the evening time. It was just last Friday, the International Business Daily published an article quoting that unnamed investigator and claiming that almost about 2.6 billion ringgit, or perhaps 7 million US dollars of One Malaysia Development Berhad, or we call it one MDB, funds flowed into the Prime Minister's personal accounts before 13th general election. So this is really sort of bringing a lot of outraged responses from citizens in Malaysia. And this one MDB refuted the claim, while Najib denied taking any funds for his personal gains, and also accused the former Premier Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad for being responsible over the latest lie. So there is a conflict between Najib and Dr. M, and this has been going on for some time. And him himself is blaming him for why not taking the charge or taking the responsibility. Why is it only me? And why is it perhaps the rumored or spread that the 1MDB, all this fund, is going to his personal account? So Najib's political secretary said that Prime Minister would sue Wall Street Journal, and also describing the accusation thrown against him as criminal defamation. So this very famous and well-known international business daily stood by its report, and the International Business Daily said it's possessed solid documents to back to its claim. So according to him, he says, Prime Minister says, why would I steal and put money in any country? Datuk Seri Najib Razak rubbished all this, basically rubbished the claims of this huge amount of money of 1MDB and also being transferred to his personal accounts, saying that he was the victim of this relentless attack by certain quarters. So according to him, he mentioned that, well, even if I wanted to steal, surely I would not have kept the money in the Malaysian account. And as a prime minister, I will never betray the Malaysian public.
And he also mentioned that he was thankful that there are people such as Paz, spiritual advisor Dr. Heron Dean, who did not believe this article. And Dr. Heron had said that he hoped the allegations are proven untrue for the sake of the country, also adding that the article in the Wall Street Journal appeared far-fetched. But how about the Wall Street Journal side? Let's hear what they need to say. And according to them, they said Wall Street Journal stands their own firm opinion regarding this Najib's personal account tracks as well as one NDP's controversial issues. They are really strongly standing, and also these millions of US dollars were channeled into for sure to personal bank account of a prime minister. And the journal's Hong Kong bureau chief, Ken Brown, he mentioned that they took the investigation, in fact, and they took it very, very seriously and involved accusation against the country's top leader. And they mentioned we were very careful and we believe the investigations and the documents we have are very solid, and they all come from the reliable investigation, and we did not purposely just make things falsely as well as not a political investigation. And he also mentioned that the response offered by the PM and also his office had been similar. Apparently, when they ran a previous report on the 1MDB before, and Prime Minister officers, they mentioned that the Prime Minister didn't take any funds for personal use, and they also mentioned political opponents of his were coming up with this story to hit him. And well, the personal opinion to this is also this is quite childish. This is just a conflict between Najib and perhaps his opponents, and picking up on each other, pointing fingers at each other. There's no embracement when it comes to money issue and issues such as this 1MDB, which is very controversial. And where the money went, we don't know. The trail we have ends at the bank account with the PM's names on it. And the report, which was just last week, Wall Street Journal noted from investigations and also documents, it is cited that this huge amount of money was transferred into Najib's personal bank, and these accounts are prior to the 13th general election in 2013. So these issues regarding 1MDB, now it involves Prime Minister's personal account. This is very, very sensitive. However, it needs to be transparent. All this taxation's money, whatever the citizens have been paying, where have this money gone to? And it is really to Prime Minister's his personal pockets, or has it been used for really justice way to show people in a transparency and also perhaps to come up with the honesty to people? Where are all those elements in Malaysia? Moving on to Singaporean news, apparently non-Chinese PM, it looks like he said it is a matter of this time before Singapore gets a non-Chinese Prime Minister. And this is according to Deputy Prime Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam, who mentioned that well, he does not see himself taking on the job, but he mentioned when replying to Washington Post columnist Farid Zakaria, who had been asked whether Singapore could see perhaps the Indian Prime Minister. So when he was asked, the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, perhaps he said, maybe I could not see myself, and also he drew a sporting analogy. Let me put it this way. We all have our preferences, and I was always in sports playing the certain half rather than center forward. So he enjoys playing half back and making the long passes, but I am not the striker. And unless I'm forced to be, and I don't think I'll be forced to do it because we've got choices. We won't always get it in the way we expect it to be, but we think very hard about successions in Singapore. And he also added by saying that we've got a crop of people who are in the fray already and entering the fray who will provide a future leadership. So Singapore has been having this leadership, not an issue, but sort of hesitant when it comes to country who's going to become the next leader. Singapore also comprises of quite a number of races, and would it be again Chinese, or would it be perhaps different race, or even Indian? So that's it for our political aspect of Southeast Asia, but stay tuned, we'll be delivering more news on economic side of ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies, first and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning and welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You are still with Grace, and well, this time we're gonna deliver news in Southeast Asia, where we'll be talking about on economical side of Southeast Asia. So what's happening here is, well, we've talked about Greek and as well as perhaps the other sides, but why not we talk about Proton? And apparently Proton is at its survival, that it is fighting and also trying to see where it can fit. So perhaps this week Proton will be 30 years old, and this is a Malaysian product-made car where for most car makers, perhaps it's a day of celebration, and then also it brings out the importance of this progress made during its time in existence. So Proton, it will be that, but also a lot of reflection. And part of it, we look at how Proton has produced 4 million cars, but at the same time, how production has been languishing away. It's below optimum capacity. So disparate fortunes of Proton of the past has brought the company to almost its lowest ebb and its 3 decades history. And then, having lost its number 1 rank to rival Purdue, Proton's market share of the auto industry has steadily slipped to about 17% of the industry. And this is a pale shadow of the past when one of the every 2 cars sold was Proton. And sales have slipped so much that in April, Proton for the first time found itself ranked 4th in the bestseller list, and it is trailing behind Purdue, Toyota, and Honda. But it jumped back to its 2nd position in May after these hiccups of the GST implementation was sort of smoothened out. So here we have a lot of perceptions. Perhaps perception is one thing for sure, but also the experience. And many people using these local cars, especially Protons, usually do not have perhaps a good experience. So the perception of having a cheap car is not enough, but it also needs to be safe and durable. It needs to protect the drivers as well as the people who are in the car. So one of the biggest problems that this company Proton is grappling with its perception is the quality. And also, it makes its questioned by many others these days, to a point the company is painfully aware of the making sure that it does not become the talking point with the new models that it will launch soon. So hope that locals will support more towards the local cars, but with credibility and with the trust that we can really drive our own car and have no problems at all. Moving on to the next one, which is regarding the ASEAN Economic Community, that free labor movement could perhaps bring up or pose big problems for AEC. So when ASEAN debuts its new trade bloc, or known as ASEAN Economic Community, by the end of this year, its 10 members could come under threat from relaxed labor movement, which also can worsen the migrant crisis in perhaps the Andaman Sea. So this relaxed movement of labor within this ASEAN could have a big problem. And when they ring and much anticipated this AAC this year. It was one that Vice Chairman of Thailand Board of Trade, Dr. Jingjai Hanchanlash, during the Economic Leadership Forum in Bangkok. So the major problem will be the free movement of labor. This is going to be a big problem for Thailand as well as other ASEAN nations. And this is especially the crisis where the thousands of Rohingyas and the Bangladeshis are smuggled into some of the ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries. And the oldest business sector, these leadership forums, they were engaged around the 200 regional business leaders and also as well as government officers. He also questioned that how about the ASEAN's preparations when it comes to the formation of its new trade bloc, which will definitely transform the ASEAN into something else, perhaps the bigger picture, single market production base. So when we all start AAC next year, he perhaps will not think the problem will only be for Thailand, but it will also be also for the 9 other countries, mainly because they are not used to this kind of free movement. Perhaps this is a very good examples, and perhaps this is a good free trade agreement among the oldest 10 ASEAN nations. However, are they ready, or even ASEAN is prepared to have this free flow of the labors? And also, according to the latest report by UNHCR, they said about 25,000 Rohingyas and Bangladeshi immigrants have been boarded smugglers' boats between January and March this year, and nearly it's doubled the number over the same period in 2014. And in the first quarter of 2015, this estimated 300 people were believed to have died at sea as a result of starvation, dehydration, and also maltreatment by these boat crews. So we have a lot of human rights issues when it comes to Southeast Asia, but having the free trade agreement when it comes to free labors, it could also raise another perhaps issues. And according to him, the Prime Minister, he said ASEAN perhaps needs a direct discussion with China to resolve this maritime dispute. And besides this, all these Rohingyas and Bangladeshis, all this migrant crisis, how about business leaders? What have they done? The leaders also touched upon the ongoing territorial dispute in the South China Sea between ASEAN nations as well as the number one trade partner, China. And China is in fact very, very important partner for ASEAN. And by the end of this year, China's trade with ASEAN will be around $500 billion. And also within 5 years, it's going to be even more, which is $1 trillion. And we need, ASEAN needs to keep our diplomatic channels open and also have a constructive discussions with China. China really wants, perhaps what China really wants is ASEAN to discuss directly with them. So ASEAN members should show the more unified positions when dealing with this maritime dispute and make use of these existing dialogues with Beijing, with the range from ASEAN Summit to ASEAN Senior Officials Meeting, perhaps up to the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting as well. The gigantic country China definitely knows the importance of ASEAN to its own positions, and it doesn't want to jeopardize the whole position as well. Just going back to the fact of the history where in 2002, China and ASEAN signed a non-binding political statement known as the Declaration of Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. And it is aimed to enhance this favorable condition for the peaceful as well as sustainable solution to disputes between the parties involved. However, it does not provide any disputes settlement mechanism. And in fact, the business leaders urge Thailand to improve its education system, and this is also regards to labor equality. So it doesn't only touch on the free labor of skillful and unskilled laborers. However, it also touches on the education. This is for the standard and also quality control. So they highlighted the talent's position as a gateway to the ASEAN Economic Community, and also with the participants exploring the risk and the rewards for the region's second largest economic once the AEC comes into effect. Well, to be honest, a lot of questions are still there until the AC is concluded by the end of this year. And it is needed to think long-term planning on what sector or industries, even the country, would like to stress. And they need to think for next perhaps 10 to 15 years from now, what kind of labor force that we as an ASEAN needs to have. So that's it for the economic aspect of Southeast Asia, but stay tuned, we'll be delivering more news on social culture side of ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Triana ASEAN. You're with Grace at ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia. And this segment will be focusing on the society and also perhaps sports and culture part from Southeast Asia. So let's talk about Chile and also Copa America. Apparently they won the Copa America for the first time, which was just last week. And this very cheeky penalty from Alexis Sanchez clinched the shootout victory of Argentina and also glory for the host nation's golden generation in front of their own fans. So it was all down to Chile and Argentina, as well as two of the strikers from Argentina missed the penalty, so they all went to Chile. And apart from scoring the winning goal for Chile, Sanchez is also doing very well with Arsenal apparently. So the whole idea was to win something, and they knew that this was the moment. This is according to the goalkeeper Claudio Bravo. And this is the privileged generation, and now it is time to enjoy it. And they're not used to winning anything, so this is an exception. So they had this glorious victory celebration. And Chile had beaten Argentina just once in 38 competitive matches before the final, and they were outsiders to take the trophy. And for the first time in 99-year history of the tournament. So we Chileans needed a triumph and also something like this cup. And they are so happy they took an incredible step, and they are America's best. So the final itself was a poor game with neither side to create many chances. So congratulations, and we hope to see more matches coming up, and the expectation is already set, so good luck with that and all the best again. Well, next news, so let's focus on the Singapore. Singapore's Botanic Garden is now World Heritage Site, and this 156 years old, the Botanic Gardens received a resounding yes from the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. And it's very well known, and it was held in Bonn, Germany. The gardens joins the likes of Australia's Great Barrier Reef, Cambodia's Angkor with the magnificent temples, as well as the China's Great Wall on the World Heritage list. So there are over about 1,000 sites on the list, but the garden is its first botanic garden in Asia and only the third in the world. So besides this Orto Botanic, the Padova in Italy and also England Royal Botanic Gardens. So this is very honor coming from the ASEAN as well as especially for Singapore. So after UNESCO's experts presented their evaluation of the garden's bids, the floor was open and all 21 members, including Japan, Turkey, and Germany, announced their support. So they're very happy, and they lauded the garden's vast botanical values and excellent landscape design. So congratulations to Singapore as well as ASEAN. So we have our pride in it coming from Singapore. So that's it. That's the end of our ASEAN Daily News. Do leave us your feedbacks on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. As well as don't forget to visit us at our website, durianasean.com. And do not forget, again, when you're on the go, do download TuneIn app and listen to us at Durian ASEAN.